Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Londonderry Town Council meeting. This is our first summer meeting for July 19th, 2021. Our next meeting will be in August on, bear with me, August 16th, just before Old Home Day. If you please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ladies and gentlemen, as is our tradition, please remain standing for a moment of silence. Tonight, since we haven't met in a while, let's have it for all of our first responders, for those men and women who serve us here and abroad, protect our country. And let's think nice thoughts for all of our legislators so that they can come together and bring the country forward. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have a few things to cover under public comment before I go out to the public. Thank you very much. First thing is for public comment is I attended a memorial service for Ann Warner at 2 Litchfield Road Meeting House on July 10th. It was very well attended. It was a nice service for a nice lady who served our community for over 12 years as a supervisor of the checklist, and it was just nice to hear all the good stories and pictures of her as a child and of her and her husband Greg and their travels. It was she would have had a lot of fun being there. So thank you for that. I also have tonight under public comment is civil forfeitures, dog licenses. So I have a warrant for unlicensed dogs from the town clerk, which the town council has signed pursuant to New Hampshire RSA 466:14. Apparently we have almost 800 dogs who are not licensed so far. So folks, if you could, you have until August 31st to come back and pay for your dogs to be licensed. It is important that we know where the dogs are so that we, if they get lost, if there is an accident, we can help. And if you have, if your dog has passed, please let the clerk's office know so that they can remove the dog from the registry. Anything else on dog licenses? Good. Okay, we're good on dog licenses. I think Councilor Dolan had something here under public comment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. We've been living with performance overlay districts for close to 20 years. I think actually about 18 years now in town. So I think it's time that we perhaps should ask the planning board to relook at those, either to update them or cancel them or change them, improve them, whatever. So I would ask the council if we could direct the town manager to get with the town planner to revisit the performance overlay district write-ups that, like I said, have been in place for 18 years and make a recommendation back to the council of what we should do with them.
Everybody in the council okay with that?
Yep.
Yeah, it's probably time to look at them. Also, I know they're addressing the sign ordinance. Maybe they could do that at the same time, since we probably haven't updated that ordinance in equally as long a period of time.
Chickens.
Great. I'm going to jump a few things ahead here and on the agenda. I'm going to jump item 6 under new business ahead to appoint the new deputy tax collector. Who's presenting that this evening?
So, Mr. Chair, pursuant to the statute, when there is a new tax collector, they shall appoint a deputy with the approval of the council. And our new tax collector, Allison Parsons, unfortunately could not be here this evening, but she would like to appoint Sherry Fuller, who is here this evening. Sherry is one of our town clerk assistants. She's been with us, I think, since just last year, summer of last year, does an excellent job, and I think they are going to make a great team.
Any questions for Sherry?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we appoint the new deputy tax collector as presented by the Assistant Town Manager.
Second the motion.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative.
Roll
Sherry?
call.
Roll call vote?
Please.
Roll call vote.
Oh, I, Deb Paul.
Aye, John Farrell.
Aye, Jim Butler.
Aye, Tom Dolan.
Thank you.
Passes unanimously 4-0. Counselor Green is traveling tonight for business and will not be here. Sherry, congratulations. See the town clerk to be sworn in. I'm going to jump another thing ahead here. I have item number 4 from new business. The approval of Department of Public Works and Engineering reorganization, approval of the Director of Public Works and Municipal Facilities position. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to be looking for the council's approval this evening to do two things. One is to do a reorg within our Department of Public Works and Engineering department, and also to approve the appointment of a new department head, being the Director of Public Works and Municipal Facilities. As the council is aware, Steve Cotton, who was the town's administrative support coordinator, announced his retirement, which was effective on June 23rd. And as has been said many times, Steve left big shoes to fill. And so prior to Steve's retirement, we had already started to consider how and when to reorganize the Department of Public Works more formally into a highway division and an engineering division separately. As we see it, the division of duties would have several operational benefits. One, it would permit our current Director of Public Works and Engineering, John Trottier, as well as his assistant, Jose Lovell, to focus their efforts entirely on matters of engineering, development projects, road projects, and perhaps the PFAS issue as that develops, shepherding the extension of water lines here in the town. And two, it would allow direct on-site supervision of our Public Works garage employees with the goal of elevating the highway department both as to the public perception and relative importance in the town's overall operational structure. In saying that, I have had the opportunity and the benefit to get to know the current Deputy Director of the Department of Public Works in Salem, Dave Wally, who also happens to be a Londonderry resident, has lived in Londonderry for 18 years. Followed the work he was doing down there and was impressed with a lot of the operational goals that he had implemented down in Salem. He also has a breadth of experience in a number of the areas where Steve Cotton had been previously handling, both in the areas of facilities maintenance, cemetery upkeep and maintenance, parks and recreation. And so in doing this, dividing up the departments to have a separate Department of Public Works as well as a Department of Engineering, and putting Dave in this position, I believe it's going to will achieve both operational efficiencies as well as effectiveness of both departments. John Trottier will stay the department head of the Department of Engineering, and Mr. Wally would move into that role at the Public Works garage. I would note that, again, he's been the Deputy Public Works Director since January of 2007 in Salem. Before that, he was worked as a foreman in the highway division there since 2000. So he certainly is very familiar with the world of public works. And I think based on his track record and the folks I've talked with in Salem, I think will be it's an asset and benefit to ours to have Dave join the team here in Londonderry.
Any questions for the town manager?
I
Yes,
just one
yes, please.
question. Kevin, does sewer and water and solid waste fall under this department, or is that part of this? I mean, I know what you're doing. I think
Right.
it's good, but I mean, is that included in that department, or is that separate?
So sewer, Bob Carey right now is our facilities engineer for everything that's sewer related. That will stay under the Department of Engineering.
Under engineering.
However, the maintenance of those facilities would work hand in hand with Dave and his department.
Okay, and what about solid waste, like the trash removal and
That
the
will
dump?
also stay
That's under that
under
department
Bob
too?
Carey. Yes. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions from the council? Do you want Mr. Wally to come up and say hello?
I think that would be great. He is here this evening. Dave, come on up.
Hi,
Good
Dave,
evening.
welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for that flattering introduction, Mr. Town Manager. I hope my wife is watching. But good evening, Mr. Chair and fellow board members. As Calvin illustrated, I've spoken with him at great lengths about my passion for the profession that I've been in for many years, and very looking forward to coming to work for the town that I've been in now for a little over 2 decades and whatnot. And I've seen a lot, I'm impressed a lot with Londonderry, and very anxious to come work with this board, the town manager, various boards that I'll be interacting with, and the employees that work here are top notch. I've got to know John Trottier very well through the years, working in my capacity with the I-93 expansion and salt reduction. I'm sure you're all very familiar with those projects as they affected this community. And I'm just looking forward to coming to work to town in another few more weeks. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now, or sure I'll be seeing you in the not so distant future.
So your start date is
August 9th.
August 9th?
Yeah. You have a lengthy 60-day notice in Salem, and which is good because I have a lot of projects there that are wrapping up and have a lot of detail to put to bed before I do so. And I'm a little tied down right now with some traveling baseball with my son, who's going to be a senior at Londonderry High School. My daughter's going to be a sophomore, and my loving and caring wife, been married for 22 years now. So throw a plug in for them, too.
Just in case they're watching.
Just in case. They may be.
So, yes, Tom.
Welcome aboard. Heard a lot of great things about you from the town of Salem, so I think it's going to be a great marriage here. I will say something, I'm saying it through Kevin.
Sure.
To make sure we follow the right path. Go down Adams Road from Mammoth.
Mhm.
There's a huge tree that looks like it's about to fall on Adams Road. I think it's got a ribbon around it too.
Okay.
So you might want to take a look at, see if it's time to take a tree down there.
We've been dealing with similar issues in Salem. We had a microburst blow through there a couple weeks back, and so I understand your concerns.
Because that road is a historic road, it's difficult to, anything we do on that road becomes very public, so.
Yeah, we have one of those in Salem as well. Yeah.
Well, Dave, good luck.
Yes.
Deb, you all set?
Yeah.
Dave, good luck. You know, you can talk to Kevin all about mailboxes and plows and all that fun stuff. And, you know, it's Kevin's pet project.
All about that.
So we look forward to working with you, and thanks for joining the team.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Take care.
Welcome.
Okay, so one more thing under public comment. So over the last, and before I go to the public, over the last month or so, we did announce at the last meeting that we were going to have, we had secured the approval of grants for about $900,000 for PFAS water and for to try to work out something so that we can help the people here in town. We were also told by Congressman Pappas that about over the next 2 years, we'd be looking at about $2.6 million coming from the COVID Relief Fund, in which I spoke to the Speaker of the House, Sherm Packard of Londonderry, and it'd be at $1.3 million a year. I've answered a number of phone calls of people who have called and have asked about the programs, and it seems that there was information that got out about it that gave the impression that we were ready to put these programs in place. So so Deb and I talked about this, and with her help through this meeting, we're going to try to get some more information about it so that people understand that we've got to go through an entire process of securing the money from the state, going through approvals with the executive council, drawing up resolutions here, and then putting a program in place. So like we talked about on the phone, if you have one of your reporters, contact Lisa and Mike Malaguti, and we'll get that all out there so that people understand that, well, we're making progress. It might be 6 months or longer before we see any money. So like we talked about, so that'd be great. Now, for that, public comment for you. So if it's not on the agenda tonight and it's not part of a public hearing, and there's something you would like to address with the council, now would be the time. Yes, sir?
Good evening. Ray Breslin, 3 Gary Drive. There's a lot I see on the agenda, and I don't want to hold things up here. Just speaking about public comment, we have public comment the first thing in the meeting, and I would suggest that perhaps we kind of relook at that, because if you're going to have public comment, so much is going to be presented afterwards, and then there's no public comment. So perhaps we should look at that, because sometimes the public want to speak, or maybe I want to speak, whatever. The public needs to have input as to, what's being presented and what the thoughts are. Of course, there's always another meeting, but then it may be a different agenda. One other thing that I believe Kevin is going to present in regards to the power plant. This apparently is a done deal with no public input, which I think is a big mistake. I'm not sure whoever made the negotiation totally understands with who they're dealing with. Granite Ridge is not a local company. Just briefly, it's owned by Calpine Corporation, headquarters in Houston, Texas, Wilmington, Delaware, Dublin, California, other headquarters in New York, Pasadena, Texas, London, England, and Moscow, Russia. They operate 76 power plants operating under construction for a capacity of 26,000 megawatts of electricity, enough power to power 2 million homes. They operate in 22 states, Canada, and Mexico. They're the largest generator of electricity from natural gas and geothermal resources in America. And if we go back to Granite Ridge, which we know kind of went by the wayside because they went belly up, went back to the bank, and then we have Granite Ridge, a new company, taking it over. We were promised with AES that we would get in writing at least $5 million annually. Apparently that went by the wayside because AES went belly up, the bank took it over, and then they didn't want to run the thing, and it was sold for short money. Recently, within the past 3 years, it was sold for $500 million. I could be wrong on that. You may want to check that out. Okay? We're dealing with somebody, and now they feel that we owe them money back. If this is a done deal, I, for one, am not too happy. I think there should have been public input, and I think they should have been looked at a lot closer. But we're going to do a presentation. We'll listen to that and see what it is.
Yes, we're going to do a presentation tonight. We're going to get into the details of it. We very much know exactly who Calpine is, and we'll get into those details in part of our presentation. Just for the record, a number of your statements are inaccurate.
Okay,
Just for the record.
that's fine. Hey,
So
that's fine.
if you'll please be patient and listen to the presentation, and we'll proceed from there. We do have processes and procedures and policies and rules of order that we follow, and we follow them closely. So it is an agenda item this evening, and we will go through it.
And just one other question. Who did the negotiation?
Pardon me?
Who was the negotiator with their lawyer to finalize this?
We'll have our lead negotiator is here, and he will be doing the presentation.
Thank you. And thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Is there anything further under public comment this evening? Okay, seeing none. Public comment is now closed. We have a public hearing. Public hearing on ordinance 2021-02, an amendment to the zoning ordinance relative to the rezoning of 20 and 22 Young Road to a multifamily residential 3. Hi, Colleen.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing.
Thank you very much. Need a second? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative, and the public hearing is open. Floor is yours, Colleen.
Okay, Mr. Chair, members of the council, thank you. I'll just give a brief introduction to this and then turn this over to the applicant to make a presentation. So this is a request to rezone 22 Young Road, map 6, lot 53, which is currently zoned Commercial 1 and Route 102 Performance Overlay District, and 20 Young Road, map 6, lot 58-2, currently zoned Agricultural Residential 1, rezoning both of these parcels to multifamily residential. This property is located on Route 102 and with also frontage on Young Road. It's adjacent to the Cross Farm 55-plus community to the west and a single-family residential neighborhood of Copperfield Lane to the east. The property is or could be served by Pennachuck Waterworks and Liberty Utilities Natural Gas. There's no sewer available in the area. So at the planning board meeting on June 2nd, 2021, the planning board held a public hearing and after that made a motion to recommend that the town council rezone 22 and 20 Young Road to multifamily residential 3. That motion was approved by a vote of 5-3 with 1 abstention. Just for the board's information, the members who voted in opposition, it was expressing a concern relating to traffic on Route 102 and because they felt that R3 was not consistent with the master plan controlled growth sector. So that's all that I have for you. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'll let Aaron Orso and go ahead and present to you their conceptual plan.
Sir?
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. My name is Jeffrey Brem. I'm with Meisner Brem Corporation. We're civil engineers based out of Salem, Massachusetts, and Salem, New Hampshire, and Westford, Massachusetts. Sorry about that. And we know Dave Wally good, and you're going to get a good man. So, but you
Thank
already
you.
know that. We're looking at a parcel, as Colleen said, on 102 and Young Road, approximately 25 acres. It's currently in the C1 district. We're asking to change it to the R3 residential zone. We have certain requirements that we had to do for planning board, so I'd like to go through them. It'll be about 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and then Aaron will speak, and then we'll ask for any questions and so forth. The area around the proposed zoning change is almost exclusively residential. The area on the north side of 102 is residential in nature with the exceptions of the town's fire station, which is right across the street from Young Road. This includes homes on Young Road, Copperfield Lane, Cross Road, Apple Blossom Drive, Ball Drive, and Crosby Lane, all of which are to the east. Directly adjacent to the area, as Colleen mentioned, is Cross Farm to the west, a 55-plus single-family residential community of 186 units on 165 acres of land. It's currently under construction, as you know. Essentially, the entire area to the north of 102 is residential. To the south is Estes Country Store, a photography studio, and a small, well-buffered industrial use. Traffic is a big issue in this area, obviously. Intersection of Young Road and 102 is currently not signalized. As such, if this property were to be developed as a large commercial center, it would require significant changes to the traffic patterns for signals, turning lanes, pedestrian crossings, etc., similar to what happened at Cross Farm down the street. As Colleen said, municipal sewer service is not available, water is available, but the sewer service would impact any kind of commercial development, restaurants, bars, and all of any kind of retail establishments would all require private individual septic systems, and that could get large and so forth. When considering the potential impacts of commercial development on traffic, soil, septic, water usage, soils, configuration of this fairly rural area into a commercial center, it is clear that the general health, safety, welfare is better served by slightly more intensive residential uses with an R3 multifamily residential zone. Now, we talked about this a lot with the planning board. In planning lingo, they use the word transition, to transition from one intensive use to lighter uses. We look at this as a perfect example of a transition zone. Similar to Cross Farm next door, we can transition from a high trafficked highway into smaller, more rural residential areas. Route 93, Route 28, those are good places for commercial zones, and they are that way. This creates a buffer to the less intensive residential zones, especially to the north. As I said, the Cross Farm project is a perfect example of this type of transitional buffering. This zoning would continue that, being right next door. In fact, the master plan, especially the earlier master plan, the most current master plan talks about neighborhoods and talks about specific areas. The previous master plan talks about corridors. This is more of a corridor than a neighborhood, but it would take this corridor and turn it into a transition residential neighborhood. The R3 zone also allows for a tremendous flexibility in design and modifications to dimensional requirements, but still a fixed density based upon your soil ratios. So we're still going to use soils just like we do in any residential zone in establishing the density here. That's what will drive the density. So it's not what Mr. Orso wants or his company. It is done by the density of the soils, which we're still working on, as you can imagine. There's going to be open space, natural areas. We're going to protect the wetlands. All those kind of things you can do with the flexibility that the R3 zone presents. So in summary, this fits the intention of the town zoning master plan and historical development patterns in the area. The rezoning will fit more naturally into the surrounding neighborhoods, will be safer, healthier, and in general, better welfare for the local community. The R3 zone seems perfectly suited in this location, and its acknowledged rarity will be enhanced. When I say that, there is some R3 zones in town, but they're fairly rare and spread out. So it'll be enhanced with a new area by this rezoning, as contemplated by the master plan. The exhibit before you is just a concept, it's an idea. It shows the property so you can get an idea of the streets. Nashua Road is on the bottom to the south, Young Road to the right to the east, and then the property there. The wetlands haven't been fully defined yet, but they're kind of shown so you can see that the property is mostly upland. And that particular scheme that we've showed you would fit in very nicely. And that's what we're looking for, is to do something like that. Aaron, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. We've, over the last probably about 6 months, proactively been working with staff. We started initially working on the property at 22 Young Road, and after a recommendation from them, we decided to try to work with the neighbor at 20 Young Road to combine those properties so that we could have access off of Young Road as the main entrance to the subdivision. Working with the town engineer and his comments, they thought that that would be a more beneficial way to have the property entered and exited. We also provided a second entrance for emergency vehicles, as you can see further down. That way, if there was ever any form of an emergency, that you would be able to have less congestion at the Young Road intersection and provide a little bit more of a easy accessibility from that point. We have flagged, like Jeff said, we haven't done extensive work, but we have done soil work and flagged the wetlands. So this is a representation of that. And we're looking to do some form of single detached unit in the R3 zone that we could try to bring to single family homes or single family development, if you will, and that's what we're looking to do with that. I sent everyone here, or I sent it to Kirby, kind of the ideas of the concepts that we're looking to do, kind of smaller craftsman-y style homes that are in between 1,700 and 2,300 square feet. We've done a couple other of these projects, and we're reworking some of the plans to kind of fit the mold of your first-time home buyer or your second-time home buyer, if you will, for this type of development. But I did put together, like I said, a couple of videos just to show everyone kind of the product that we use or we develop. And these are through customers that we've done work for. At least this one is particularly. So I think that it looks pretty nice. And this is a development that we did in Salem, New Hampshire. They're more of an open concept, higher ceiling type thing to create more of an open space feel. Some of them have some sunrooms on the back, like you can see in this.
Of course, not everybody's house is going to be that clean.
It's okay. You don't have to play the other one. I think that they can kind of get the idea of, you know, what we were trying to present as a product. The other thing that we did with this development, and what I'd like to kind of do with this development as well, is we offered, in that development, we did, I believe we did 3 or 4 affordable units. These affordable units weren't tied into any form of a workforce housing. They were ran by the state. And to be honest with you, not, you know, cutting down the state or anything like that, I didn't think it was the best format for an affordable structure, because it's not based on assets. So you could have $2-3 million and still be getting approved for these types of projects based off of your income. So what I wanted to do with something like this is actually have some form of an enhancement to the town of Londonderry. So what I want to do is kind of market my key, or have key marketing for, call it 2-3 units in here, that we would steer 100% towards Londonderry families. And I'd like to work with you guys or the planning board, whoever, and figure out a price range or an income class that you guys would like me to target for those. And I'd like to kind of try to keep those units. If you see some of the units, one of the ones on there, I don't know if you guys have the plans in front of you. Can you pull up the plans at all? I can show you the plan that we kind of used as our affordable unit over there.
We have plans in our packet.
Okay, there's one with, it's called the Lancaster plan. But that was the affordable unit that I used over there. And what I did was I worked with a marketing agency, and we can kind of set up, you know, criteria to have a targeted, focused mailers, you know, depending on how many times we need to do it. But I'm sure that there's some people in the town of Londonderry that, you know, are at a point where they don't want to take care of their home anymore, but, or maybe they're in some other type of situation. You know, you never know what's going on in someone's life, but depending on their income, they can't take care of what they, you know, what they have anymore. But a community like this, I think, would benefit them. And if we could try to keep something in the $350,000 to $375,000 range, I think that that would be a real benefit. I mean, most of these homes, I'm going to say that we're trying to shoot for affordability, but the reality in Londonderry is it's a desirable town. So we're thinking of pricing in between the $500,000 and $600,000 price point on these. And I want to tie this into a form of an HOA so that it's not maintained by the town. This is something that's fully sustainable by itself. And we've had a lot of luck with these types of developments. But that's my presentation, I guess, and I'm here to answer any questions that anyone has. But the main point I wanted to bring out is we're here to work with you guys and work with the town to try to create something special here. And I think with this land, it's definitely an opportunity to do that. I mean, jamming in a bunch more commercial, office space, retail that, let's be real, who's using that anymore? What direction? When's that coming back? Because I don't see any of my friends that are going back to the office, or how many people are going shopping anymore? How do you all shop now? It's changing times. Something like this can bring a little bit more affordability, bring some more kids to an awesome school district. I sell homes in this town, and I've talked to many people in this town. I can't build a home in this town anymore for under $750,000 because of land costs and costs of construction. Getting a density size like this allows me to bring a little bit more affordability, even though I know 500,000 doesn't sound, 600,000 doesn't. It is in the realities of new construction in southern New Hampshire. So,
I just want to add before he finishes, Aaron works for DHB Homes. He's one of the founder's sons, and I will tell you, or son-in-laws, and I will tell you that they're based right here in Londonderry. So they're a good-sized outfit. They've done a lot of great work. They've been clients of mine for, God, close to 20 years, and they're probably our best and brightest clients, and they do the best work, and you're lucky to have them right here in Londonderry. So you get a homegrown group right here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I'm going to go to the council first. This is a public hearing, and then I'll go to the public to see what kind of feedback we get. And yes,
Sit down.
Sure. I'll ask you to come back if there's any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Yes, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. When I saw the video of the homes, the neighborhood in Salem, it looks to me like my uncalibrated eye is that those roads were substandard roads in terms of width. They would not meet the
They could. No, those are 24-foot wide roadways, so they're 2+ lanes.
Okay, so they would take plow trucks and trash vehicles.
Absolutely, yeah. They were built to the town of Salem standards. It was in Salem, New Hampshire. And their standards aren't any different than yours, so.
Okay, because we do have some developments in town where the roads are much narrower, and we don't send trash vehicles or plow trucks down. They have to do that themselves through the HOA. So you wouldn't have an HOA that would do its own plowing or trash pickup, or?
This would be completely all landscaping, all snow removal, all lighting, insurance.
Everything would be in
covered
place.
through the HOA.
Trash removal as well? Is it
We
be,
worked with State Line.
is that because the road width? Is that why you would be doing that?
Part of the package.
So you're aware that, I don't know if you're aware of this,
I
but
know the town of Londonderry does, so I mean, we're obviously open to working with them, but if not, I mean, the one in Salem, trash removal was part of the HOA fee.
yeah, probably the reason that Councilor Dolan's bringing it up is we're going to charge you for it anyway.
Yep.
There is growing energy in the legislature. I'm a state rep as well. There's growing energy in the legislature to require towns to find a way to pick up trash, to do plowing, in spite of these HOAs, because there's been such a groundswell of objection by the residents who say, gee, we're paying all these taxes to these towns that we live in, and we don't get the services that many other taxpayers get. So we're stuck in many cases with substandard roads in terms of road width, where a trash vehicle can't turn around on the street, or it's hazardous for a fire truck to get down there and have to back its way all the way out of the neighborhood because it can't turn around. So there are issues like that I know of are concerned, and I know our planning board will take you through all that process. But I just want to put that on the table that the width of the roads is a growing concern across the state in neighborhoods like this. So it's something to consider as you go forward, and it's something for our planning board to consider, how those are going to intersect, because I would imagine over the next few years, there's going to be some legislation that's going to require towns to do more than we do now with some of these smaller private roads that serve a lot of these condo developments and smaller developments. That going in, that was part of the approval process, but it's coming back around that something's going to have to change. And you just can't go in and dig up the road, make it wider.
Well, we were under the expectation of doing very similar to what we did there, was going with the 24-foot wide roads, so that obviously public
And so let me look to our planner. That's sufficient for serving trash and all that.
28 is a standard, 24 can be permitted with. Yeah, so.
Hey, John, could you come to the mic so I can hear what you have to say? Thank you.
And don't get me wrong, the development looks beautiful. I'm just saying that there are, we're in the midst right now of a change, of some energy around changing that, so that people can get full services in spite of the HOA.
Our road width standard is 28 feet of pavement. It's 24 feet when we have open drainage, but it's very unlikely they would have open drainage in this type of development.
Because we know how friendly you are about, roads and ordinances.
About. Yeah, and again, and you're right, though, that when it comes to trash pickup, again, as long as it's built to town standards, we can, and like you say, John, they'll get charged for it anyways, and.
Yeah, no.
Yep.
No, and these guys haven't gone through the planning board process, right?
Correct.
So it's, so they understand what they're getting
So,
themselves
so
into.
my final comment would be, I guess would just to be flexible in that regard, because it's an issue that's gonna present itself no matter whether your development gets approved or not. There are things that are starting to move across the state, and Londonderry will get swept up in that as well.
Yeah, just so we understand, we have almost 1,055 and older units
Well,
just in the town.
Well, one last question.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the length from Young Road to the furthest cul-de-sac?
It would need to comply with our regulations, so it couldn't,
1,500
it
feet
couldn't
less?
exceed,
1,600.
1,600 feet is the maximum?
Cul-de-sac line.
Yeah, we have about, on this plan, about 6,700, about 1,300.
Good, because that's very important. It's very important to us as a community to maintain a level of safety, to be able to serve with only one way out, which is the way you come in, to be able to serve the community. That's why we limit the distance. I'm sure you deal with that all the time. So I guess I would ask that you not ask for a variance around that requirement. It's very important, especially it's for the safety of our firefighters as well, that they don't get caught down into an area that they can't get out of. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Deb, did you have something?
Well,
Well, please proceed if you do.
okay, thank you. Colleen, this is a zone change, correct?
Correct.
So in this zone that they want to change into, I'm not saying they will, but we don't know when they're going to start construction and when everything's going to get improved and what the climate is going to be. But with this zone change, they could put in apartments, they could put in garden style, like condexes. So I think the houses are beautiful, but there's no guarantee that that's what you're gonna get. When I was at the planning board, I did ask them how much the HOA fees were gonna cost, and they said around $290 a month on top of their mortgage. So I think when we're looking at this, this is a nice project, but we have to keep in mind that this is a zoning change, and there's no guarantee that the zoning change, they're going to do what they're going to do. I don't believe, and that's what I'm asking. So if we change this, do we guarantee that that's what we're going to get, single-family homes?
With the rezoning change, any use that's permitted in R3 would be permitted on the lot when it's rezoned to R3. So that includes multifamily housing, apartment-style buildings, townhouse, row house type configuration. They've presented their concept, and their plan is single-family,
Right.
but the other uses permitted would be allowed.
Okay. And these are not going to be 55 plus, correct? They're going to
Under-
be,
Under the current R3 ordinance, in order to have single-family on, so it's multifamily, but we consider it single-family on a single lot, makes it multifamily in the R3 district. In order to have these single-family homes, 75% of the units would need to be restricted, age-restricted. So that's a conversation that's been discussed about
Right.
potentially going to the ZBA for variances to seek relief from that age restriction requirement, but currently it would require 75% be age restricted.
right. I guess the other question is, how far away is the sewer? Is it very, very far?
Back at Buttrick Road.
Oh, okay, I just wanted to double check on that. So that is a concern when we have septic in this many houses, and if they do or don't have an HOA, the maintenance of those septics so that they don't leach out into, cause water contamination to other people and to themselves, or have a drain on the water in there. The other thing that I had a question on just slipped my mind, so if you could come back to me when I can remember, that would be wonderful. I'm sorry, should have wrote it down, but,
No worries. We're going to be here for a while. Just Jim.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think the concept is excellent. The price points, if they hold, I think brings added value to the town and to some families. And for the developer to come in and say, you know, he potentially will work with the town to maybe fit 3 or 4 houses for interested Londonderry residents that have a financial need. I think I haven't heard that in years, to be quite honest with you. That brings up a good point about your intention. And I'm gonna ask you, is your intention to single family? Is that the intention?
That's my intention. I'm not gonna try to fight against something that no one wants. So my idea is I think that there's a shortage of inventory in homes right now, and I don't think any town needs another 55-plus community. I'd like to work with the town, the ZBA, or the planning board to try to get that 75% removed. That would allow me to kind of do this type of development to keep these homes in a price point, and then the open market can be interested in. Whoever's in the mode for it, we want to kind of offer some plans with first floor units, but I also have to take into consideration to understand what other families want. And I know I have 2 young kids. I would not want to not be on the same floor as them if so that, we're in the midst of, I didn't want to get into too much detail or too much change in design, but I've said this before, and I'd be more than willing to work with a condition of on this R3. I don't want to do apartment buildings. I don't want to do duplexes. That has no interest of mine whatsoever. And you can take me for my word, or we can put some form of a condition on this R3 rezoning. I know that you had made mention during the planning board that you don't love that, but it could be a site-specific thing.
Okay. Thank you for that. Next
Yeah,
time I'll
thank
have you
you.
come to the mic, but so I just got a
I'm
note.
sorry.
It's not your fault. I didn't tell you to come to the mic. Anyone else from the council? All right, I'm going to go to the public, so if you guys can let the public go. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the portion of the meeting where it's a public hearing. So it's for you to come up. When you come up, you give us your name and address for our records so that we can put it in our minutes. And please let us know what you're thinking. Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Bob Denazzi. I live at 16 October Lane.
Yes, sir.
That's in Cross Farm. And I just need a little clarification. I'm trying to get oriented as far as the map. I know that between this proposed development and Cross Farm, there's currently a clearing of trees as part of the gas lines.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to get oriented as I look at this, or just notionally, where is that? Okay, so some of those homes are actually going to be built on what's currently clearing?
No homes, sorry, microphone.
Yes, please. Thank you.
No homes will be built on the gas line. Obviously, it's an easement, but there is roads that cross it. On this plan, again, when we develop the plans, that may change a little bit.
Okay, then on the western side of that clearing, will there be any tree clearing to the west of the current cleared gas line?
Yes, I mean, This plan shows this area here, so yes, there would be some clearing.
Well, that's in the clearing now. Where is the clearing now?
It's actually here,
Oh, it's in there.
yeah. This is cleared, this is tree.
So
This
there
is
would be,
gas line.
there would be clearing to the west of
There
what's currently
would be,
cleared.
yes.
And where, so the edge of the Cross Farm is really the western edge of that?
Right, and then there's some trees there as well, and there would always be a buffer, and a buffer is required in this zone as well. And that, as the council knows, those kind of details we don't have here yet.
Right.
But we will have those when we go to planning board.
And sir, they will have a public hearing at the planning board. You'll be
Okay.
able to come in and give your input
And
and
see
talk
the-
about the plan and see the finished plan, exactly where everything lays out.
Yeah, I'm mostly concerned with the depth of the trees between the two developments.
So in the 11 years I spent on the planning board, when someone would come to the planning board with a question like yours,
Right.
I would look at the developer and say, have you guys talked to each other?
Right.
Okay,
What we encourage is that the abutters talk to each other and they work together. That's how we
Okay.
like to do things.
well, I can talk to someone, I don't know who to talk to. This was the first
Totally
get-together.
understand. So when you go to the planning board, they're gonna ask you that question and make sure you guys know each other or get to know each other now.
Terrific,
And, you
okay.
know, and we encourage the people to work with the existing homeowners. That's the way we like to do things.
Okay, well, my main point was I was just trying to get oriented in
Well, of
terms of
course.
spatial relationships here.
So, Mr. Chair, I do have the GIS up on the map behind you. Unfortunately, our aerial photography hasn't been updated since 2017, so that doesn't help us, but we do have our GIS buildings layer. So these are the structures at the end of October Lane. There is about a 25-foot distance there from the property line, and then this is the Young Road parcel that we're talking about, these two parcels. So just to orient you a little bit.
Wetlands here and everything else, right?
Yep, so there's wetland through.
There's gonna be a
through
fair
this
amount of
area.
buffer just based on the wetlands alone.
Based on wetland setback, they need to avoid that area.
Okay, but I'll have an opportunity to take a look at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. And just one comment, there was a reference made to the intersection where the Cross Farm comes out onto 102.
Yes.
That there were turning lanes, and there was some mention of traffic light. Just for the record, there's no traffic light there. I don't know if there's any plan for it to be. But if there were going to be traffic lights added anywhere, that would probably be a more higher priority one due to the larger size of the development. Maybe you need it in both places, but if you were going to put it in one or the other, I would suggest that the larger development, which is Cross Farm coming out onto 102, would be the place that you would need it more.
So,
a
sir, the way that works is since 102 is a state road, we have to work with the Department of Transportation, and they
Right.
really decide where the traffic light goes. You may or may not be aware, but 102 is 55 miles an hour. We put a warrant article on the ballot a couple of years ago to reduce the speed limit to 45 miles an hour, and it was defeated by
Right.
the voters. So a number of us on the council would like to see the Department of Transportation to put traffic lights either at your intersection or enhance the traffic light there. I can tell you it will be an uphill battle.
Yeah, okay. I'm not necessarily advocating one or the other. I'm just saying if you were going to start looking at that, I would consider the Cross Farm intersection to be a higher priority intersection.
Right. So what they're going to have to do is
outlet.
they're going to have to do a traffic study report, and what the traffic study report is going to indicate is where they believe the traffic scientists believe the light should go.
Right.
And that's probably what they're going to bring to the planning board, or if there should be a light. Putting in a light is about $500,000.
Okay.
So but there'll be multiple meetings at the planning board, and they'll go into a great level of detail about it. And
Okay.
you're welcome to participate.
Okay, we'll take it up at the right time then. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is public comment. If you do have something, yes, I can see you all the way in the back, sir.
Ray Burson, 3 Gary Drive. I wish there were other people that would speak other than myself, but in regards to this development, and the developer has a right to present something, but I'm looking at this here, and as we can kind of see, the gas line easement runs right through this. Now, this is only a proposed plan. It's not set in stone by any means, but if I'm correct, and I may not be, I believe there's a brook that runs right through this, and there's also a lot of wetlands here. As a matter of fact, I think this is drainage from Mac's property that it drains right through here. And so I think if anybody's going to be making any decisions on this, we would have to know what the wetlands are, what the setbacks are, and are they even allowed to build a development on top of a gas line easement, which I don't know. But we need to, and by the way, the presentation was to present this in the, I believe, the neighborhood of 350, 400,000, whatever, to young people. Young people usually have children, which is a good thing, but it also puts a burden on our schools, which we have a tremendous burden on our schools. So I'm not even sure why we're thinking about approving some of these developments when we don't even have a water and sewer plan in place. Maybe we do. I could be wrong there. But I don't see any sewerage running to this. I believe there's water that does run down to Cross Farm, so municipal water probably would not be a problem. It's a nice thing off Young Road. We got a fire department right there. But I'm a little concerned how compact this is. I don't think I would want to be in there with a fire truck trying to fight a fire in those closer quarters. These buildings are extremely close together. So I think we really need to look at this very closely about approving a development like this. I mean, the developer's got a right to come forward and present something if it makes sense. I'm not sure in this current status, when we're looking at water and sewer with a big problem, that we should be even considering some of these developments. Once again, just my opinion.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have a decision ahead of us for a zoning change here. We are not approving the development. We have heard from the developer and that his desire to build single-family homes. The question before us is to whether we want to approve this and change the zoning to R3 or not. Now, you have one other decision we can make. You have two other things you can do. If you're not sure and you want more information, we can table it to the next meeting, develop those questions, and address it at the next meeting. The next meeting is not till August 16th. If you disagree with what we're doing here at the board tonight and you just feel strongly as a single counselor that you do not want to make the change, you can invoke counselor privilege and automatically move it to the next meeting. What's your desire?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we concur with the planning board's recommendation and accept the change as outlined in ordinance 21-02 as presented.
Second.
All right, discussion.
I'm for the development, but I am nervous that things could change. No offense, I'm sure you're very personable and honest. It's just that situations change, costs of things change, and you start looking at it and realize the only way you can make it profitable is to do row styled, which are nice. But I mean, I just would feel more comfortable if we're looking to get single family homes that we put a, I forgot what Colleen said it was, some sort of attachment to this.
I know.
I'm sorry.
You can
I know it's not-
put a condition. It's better to have a clean rezoning. Either it's good for R3 or not, but the council can put a condition on it. So if the council's desire is to lean towards putting conditions on this, I would prefer and would recommend if you give us a little bit of time and come back at another hearing.
The town attorney is here this evening. I think are you leaning forward for a reason?
I was leaning forward. The town planner is correct. The town council can put conditions on a zoning change. I also concur with her that that should be a rare occurrence where there's a very specific reason for it that's been vetted by town staff. Rather, it's really a much better outcome if the town council decides whether to approve the zoning change on its merits on the way it's submitted. That would be my recommendation.
So Attorney Ramsdell, question for you is that if we approve this, and are we allowed to reverse it at some future date? Sorry.
You lean forward.
I'm sorry, I'm leaning back now.
I knew the question's gonna come up, so I figured I'd ask it. So let's say, for example.
So wait, I mean, the answer is that in all likelihood, if you approve it, and based on that approval, the developer goes forward, the planning board approves a plan, and there's substantial development that's undertaken, the answer is no.
Correct.
In all likelihood, you cannot reverse it. Now, if a period of time passes where nothing has been done, and so there's no vested interest established, then it may be that the town council could reverse it. But I'm going to encourage you that if you're going to vote to approve or disapprove the zoning change, then you ought to consider that to be a final decision.
Motion on the floor.
Has this been seconded?
So I've seconded it.
Motion and a second on the floor.
Okay. I
Ready to
mean,
vote?
yep.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no.
So I haven't made any comments on this, so I guess now I have to. All right, so here's the whole thing that bothers me about all of the development that's going on 102. It's that we had a warrant article approved a few years ago for the other development that's built further down the road to bring the sewer down the road. Rather disappointed, even though we were going to contribute to that the developer didn't come forward to contribute to that. Now, I know that's water under the bridge, but that's why I hesitate. I'm getting a little concerned about the amount of development on 102 on both sides of the road and the amount of leach fields that we're building. While I have nothing legally that I can do about that, it is a concern. And if there was an opportunity to bring sewer in that direction in the future, I guess my question for you would be I guess it would be a question in the future, would be, hopefully we could get this group to hook up. So I've said my piece. With that, I'll vote to approve. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're still in public hearing. Public hearing on acceptance of unanticipated revenue from Drinking Water and Groundwater Trust Fund, short-term PFAS remediation rebate initiative. Mr. Malaguti.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Mike Malaguti, Assistant Town Solicitor. I'll make this as fast and straightforward as possible. I was before you, I think, a month ago, asking for authority to move forward with two grant applications to the Drinking Water and Groundwater Trust Fund. Those applications, as you noted, were successful, and we were able to come back with $900,000 in state grant funding between the two grants. I'm here tonight and have presented you with resolutions that will authorize us to accept the funds that DES and the Drinking Water Trust Fund awarded.
May I have a motion to accept the first set of unanticipated revenue? I have two of them here. One's for Lancaster Drive, one's for the PFOAs.
Correct.
All right, so I'm going to do the Lancaster Drive next.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm doing these public hearings right in a row, so if you have something to contribute to the PFAs or to the unanticipated revenue for the Drinking Water for Lancaster Drive, please just get my attention.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I'm sorry, I should have said it before we voted, but the for the remediation rebate initiative, which is what we just voted on to approve. As the chair of the PFAS task force, I'll be working with the town staffs, more specifically Ms. Drabick, to make sure that we develop a clean process where people can apply for a rebate and when we have the money in-house, and that we can get that money out to the citizens. But that, as you pointed out earlier, that could take a few more months to get that process in place.
Yeah, from what I've heard, I think people are looking for a short-term plan.
Right.
And then what is the long-term plan for Londonderry, whether we're to put together our own water district, or what that may look like going out into the future, which may take 5 to 10 years. But, but we're waiting for that to come out of the task force, and we think we'll be getting that probably by September, right?
Right.
Okay. As we're still in public hearing, and I did not close the original public hearing, I have acceptance of anticipated revenue from Drinking Water and Groundwater Trust Fund for the Lancaster Drive water extension. This was the piece that was on the warrant. Please proceed.
That's right, Mr. Chairman. This was on the warrant. We did get authority to raise and appropriate $250,000 through taxation. Nevertheless, the town staff, at the council's direction, continued to look for ways to save money for the taxpayers, and was able to actually not only do that, but come home with an additional award as well.
Anyone from the public? This is the last piece of the public hearing. This is the last piece of unanticipated revenue we're accepting.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So since we have this grant that was awarded through the excellent work of our town staff, we may not need to draw from the taxpayers that $250,000 that they voted.
That is correct.
That will be an enhancement to our tax rate, or not a degradation of our tax rate.
Back in our bank.
So the money will stay in our bank, and therefore, and as fiduciaries of the town, you might see in other local governments, well, we get more money, and since we already got that $250,000, now we can spend that on something else. No, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to put that's your tax money. We're going to put it back in the bank and leave it, and not spend it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Anything further? Looking for a motion to approve the
So moved.
unanticipated.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. I may I have a motion to close the public hearings for this evening.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. Public hearings are closed. All right, right before I move to new business.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mike. Right before I move to new business, at our last meeting, we asked the Assistant Town Solicitor to send a letter to Commissioner Shaheen at the Department of Transportation regarding Exit 4A and the road barriers. We received a response to the letter of June 21st, letter attached in the letter that was requested considering the timing and construction of those noise barriers in the vicinity of Trolley Car Lane in Londonderry, New Hampshire. The noise barriers in question are proposed to be located on I-93 near Trolley Car Lane on the southbound side of I-93, Seasons Lane, and northbound side of I-93. Exit 4A project gained momentum during the final stages of the design and construction of I-93, which is planned to construct the noise barriers in the vicinity of planned Exit 4A. The strong drive to complete Exit 4A projects as soon as possible accelerated the Exit 4A design to a point where it became apparent that the new ramps would be in conflict with proposed noise barriers. So, I guess we're going to get the construction of the barriers per I-93 plan would require construction and ultimate demolition of the noise barriers within less than 2 years, as the walls may not have been completed until the fall of 2020. The basic layout and location of the ramps and contingent upon the successful public hearing and approval of the record of the decision, meaning the exact proposed location of the barriers could not be determined. At that time, a difficult decision had to be made, as federal rules do not allow for payment to construct these barriers twice. Aside from it being ingenious to the expend resource twice, the decision was made to stop the construction of the barriers on I-93 and shift the construction to Exit 4A, where they would be designed and constructed in the correct location. If Exit 4A was not approved, the barriers would have been constructed per the plan under the I-93 project. So they're delayed mainly because of future construction and not having to destroy those barriers. The letter goes on to, let's see, project is scheduled to advertise for bid in spring of 2022. With construction beginning in the summer of 2022, the noise barriers will be added as an early action item for the contractor, as we are sensitive to the residents and the community's desire to construct these walls as soon as possible. So it looks like they're on the project, they're gonna be paid for. It looks like they're gonna be about 18 months out. Is that about right?
Yep.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, so I have new business tonight.
Mr.
Order.
Chairman, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, may I have a point of order?
Yes.
I should have mentioned this earlier before we left the public hearing, but I just wanted to make sure that we have some heroic activity that happened recently that made those grants happen through the hard work of the town manager, Kevin Smith, assistant town manager Lisa Drabuck, and Mike Malaguti, our solicitor. The three of them went to Concord and made a real tight case and secured those grants. And with that, we also have gotten compliments from DES that Londonderry is now the model for how towns across the state should deal with these types of issues. And they've been very complimentary about our approach. So I wanted to say, I think we should publicly say thank you to Lisa, Kevin, and Mike for their work and well over $1 million worth of tax money that has been saved by their efforts and getting personally involved like that. So I just wanted to publicly say that.
Thank you. Okay, order 2021-12, the order relative to the withdrawal of cable equipment and capital reserves funds. Mr. Campo.
This is the annual request from the school district for their portion of the Comcast franchise fee that goes into the capital reserve fund. On the list, you'll be able to see what they're requesting to purchase. And this is part of that $32,500 that's on the warrant article that's offset by the revenue we receive from Comcast.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we accept order 2021-12 as presented by Mr. Campo.
Second?
Second.
Questions? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Chair votes affirmative. Thank you, Mr. Campo. Next item, Resolution 2021-17, a resolution relative to the establishment of an economic revitalization zone in the Woodmont Commons Planned Unit Development. Hi, Colleen.
Hello, Mr. Chair, members of the council. This is a resolution to designate an area of Woodmont Commons, largely the area east of 93 and also the area currently under development north of the Market Basket Plaza as an economic revitalization zone. The ERZ program is offered by the state of New Hampshire to provide short-term business tax credit for projects that improve infrastructure and create jobs within designated zones. So in order to have a zone designated, the municipality does need to request the designation. This is a way of encouraging businesses to grow and develop in areas that are currently undeveloped or underdeveloped. There is no cost or impact to the town. This is a state program that provides incentives for businesses that locate here and create jobs here. So we are asking the council to adopt this resolution so that we can apply to the state for that designation as an ERZ. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions?
No.
Accept the motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. Resolution is approved. An order relative to the expenditure of reclamation trust funds. Hi, John.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm here this evening to ask for the release of $9,690 from the Reclamation Trust Fund. If you recall, that was a trust, the trust fund was established back in March of 2003. Again, it was related to recycling, to be used for recycling purposes, solid waste purposes. I was here back in January of this year. I'd asked for an $11,000 release for 140 carts, lids and axles, parts for repair parts. I'm here this evening to ask for, again, a release of $9,690 for an additional 120 carts. Again, we're keeping those numbers down for management, so that we can manage those number of carts. So, again, it's just, with new homes, people asking for second carts, so you'll start seeing me a little more often. That's all I have.
Any questions?
When you say cart, you mean the bins, right?
bins,
Your
correct.
trash bins and your recycling bins as well?
I call it a cart because it has wheels.
Well, I just wanted to be clear so that
Yep,
people understood
understood.
what you were talking about, that's all.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good? Accept the motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative.
Thank you.
Hey, on resolutions, on items number 7 and 8, resolutions 18 and 19, do I have to take those, even though I've already accepted the funds? I can just sign the resolution?
Since there was a vote and there's also a certificate as well,
I signed
I think
everything.
it's sufficient.
Okay. Okay, that gets me to everything. It's, now we have, last item of new business is presentation of the Granite Ridge Settlement and Agreement. Mr. Ramsdell.
I think
Oh,
Kevin-
excuse me, first to Mr. Smith.
Thank you,
Then to Mr. Ramsdell.
Mr. Chairman, we've invited Attorney Ramsdell here this evening to give a synopsis and a report on the Granite Ridge settlement and what it means for the town in terms of financial value. I did just want to clarify one matter. Last week of June, I had gone before the Budget Committee to speak with them about looking forward to the budget, the fiscal year 22 budget, and also as we start to put together the fiscal year 23 budget. In the article on that meeting that ran in the local Londonderry Times afterwards, there's a few items I wanted to clarify that were inaccurate in that article. It ran on July 2nd, and the headline was Granite Ridge tax abatement expected to have budget impact. It then went on to say that I had divulged that because of a recent tax abatement awarded to Granite Ridge Power Plant, there would most likely be a need to raise residential property taxes to make up for the loss. I wanted to clarify the record because neither of these two statements are accurate. And if anyone wants to go back and watch the tape from that meeting, they would see that I made neither of those statements. And actually, to the contrary, the tax abatement will have no impact on our operating budget. It's entirely separate from the operating budget. It's handled through the abatement process and when we set the tax rate. So it does not have an impact on our actual operating budget, which I stated during the meeting. The other part is that we don't know yet what impact it's going to have on residential property taxes. The tax rate gets set in October. There's a number of factors and variables that go into determining what the rate ends up being and ultimately whether or not taxes will go up or down. But it's much too early to tell at this point what impact it will have on property taxes. And so I wanted to clarify that. I at no time stated that we would need to raise the residential property taxes to make up for the loss. And I have spoken with Deb about it, and Deb has said that she would run a correction in an upcoming issue of the Times.
Question?
Yes.
Kevin, just out of curiosity, did you reach out to the reporter or the person that wrote the article to confirm what you're saying?
I did reach out to them, yes.
Okay. To confirm.
To confirm.
To confirm that what was in the article was accurate.
I reached out to them and initially asked them, you know, if they were going to print a correction because these items weren't stated. The reporter got back to me and said that the article they submitted is not what was printed in the Times, and that and he sent me a copy of it. He had no explanation for why the article he submitted was different from the one that appeared in the Times. I didn't ask him to follow up on that, but that was the response I got.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Attorney Ramsden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a presentation that's going up? Okay.
In a minute.
No, I was just wondering what was on the screen behind me.
Oh, I'm not responsible for that. I know two things. I got called up even though I wasn't leaning forward this time. And also, I got none of the laudatory introduction that others who've come up with. But
my
okay.
apologies,
That's okay.
Attorney Ramsdale.
It's okay.
You've been around here for 10 years, okay?
So, in order to understand the change from Granite Ridge Energy to Calpine, you have to understand how a facility like Granite Ridge Energy is actually valued. As you can probably imagine, it is nothing like taking just a residential piece of property, which essentially, you know what the land costs, and then you can look at the building costs, and you come up with a pretty fair estimate of what that property costs. In fact, it's not even like taking other pieces of commercial property where you can look at, generally speaking, what the revenue from the business is. They tend to be fairly steady if the business is well run. Instead, an electricity producing facility's value is based on projections of profitability of the facility, which is true of a lot of different types of income-producing properties. For a power-producing facility like Granite Ridge Energy, the value is based on not the value that it's receiving that day, it's based on the value that it's expected to generate. Here in New England, as is true of many places, Granite Ridge Energy's a major component of its income and value is based on what's called the ISO New England forward capacity market. Now let me just break that down for people. It's not nearly as intimidating as it sounds. So ISO New England was created back in 1997 in response to energy deregulation that people had clamored for. And what its sole function is to oversee the energy market in New England. It oversees the New England power system to make sure that there's sufficient resources to meet future demand, and it conducts an annual forward capacity auction. What that literally means is that every February, on an annual basis, power producers bid a commitment to ISO New England that they will produce X amount of megawatts or kilowatts of energy in exchange for a guaranteed price. And when the capacity payments are high, when those bids are high, the facility makes more revenue. When they're low, when the bids are low, the facility is worth less money. What's important to understand is that because we're talking about all of New England's, almost all of New England's energy capacity, this happens, they're 3 years out. So in February of 2021, let's say, the auction that happened most recently, a few months ago, they were bidding on what they would pay to supply capacity or to supply energy 3 years from now. And so, if you can put the graphic up for me. So, with that in mind, let me try and show you exactly what happened with Granite Ridge Energy. It is true, as the gentleman explained before, that Calpine purchased the facility in February. In fact, they purchased it on February 5, 2016 for $520 million. It is not true, by the way, that since that time, Calpine has sold the facility at a greatly reduced rate. Calpine still owns the facility. The big difference is that for years, the town of Londonderry and Granite Ridge Energy had operated very loosely on a handshake where they agreed to a value for a number of years. Well, as gentlemen pointed out before, Calpine's a different animal. Calpine comes along and candidly, they're a more sophisticated operation than Granite Ridge Energy was. And so they actually, as things progressed over a few years, hired experts to take a look at it, because here's what happened. So you have in front of you a chart that shows the ISO New England capacity auction prices from February 2015 through February 2020. And remember, because these are 3 years in advance, they actually go more than past the calendar year because it's in February. So this actually deals with the effective dates, the actual capacity prices from 2018 through 2024. So Calpine buys in February, on February 5 of 2016 for $520 million. The capacity price at that time was $9.55, I'm rounding, and I will, but $9.55 per kilowatt hour at that time. 3 days later, the next capacity auction occurred, and the price dropped 26% to $7.03 per kilowatt hour. And what you are looking at in front of you is in 2017, it dropped to $5.29. In February of 18, it dropped to $4.63. In February of 19, it dropped to $3.80. And in February of 20, it dropped to $2. So literally, beginning 3 days after Calpine purchased the facility, through February of 2020, for effective dates going out to 23 and 24, the price dropped. It's 79%. I would say 80%, but it's 79%. Plainly, anyone who was valuing the facility in 2018 would have a very different value based on expert appraisers, indifferent, who looked at it. If a significant portion of the facility's revenue is based on capacity, which it is, and the capacity price drops from $9.50 by 1918 down to $4.63 and continues to drop in February of 20 down to $2, the plant has not retained its value. Not surprisingly, in 2018 is the first year that Calpine challenged the town's assessed value. Can you scroll that up a little? Thank you. So If from 2017 to 2019, the town kept the same value that it had had, based on the handshake deal with Granite Ridge Energy. The problem is what had happened is twofold. One, the capacity market had cratered, as shown in the chart that we just scrolled up on. And the second thing is, as happens when towns only conduct revaluations every 5 years, sometimes markets, the fair market value of properties change over that 5-year period. Unfortunately for Londonderry, at the same time, Calpine's facility was becoming less valuable than what Calpine had paid for it. The town's equalization ratio for 2017 and 2018, and I apologize, I think I said a minute ago, the first year they challenged was 2018. I meant 2017. Unfortunately for the town, by 17 and 18, the equalization ratios had dropped to 89.6% and 85.1%. Now, an equalization ratio at 85%, if you own a $500,000 home, the difference in your tax bill is $500. So to most people, they don't even frankly notice that that's happened. For a facility that's reduced in value from $470 million by 15%, that is a tremendous amount of money. And so Granite Ridge Energy did two things. It challenged the values the state put on its facility, the Department of Revenue Administration, and it challenged the town's values. Since that time, it has settled with both DRA and it is settled with the town of Londonderry. What we were looking at is Granite Ridge Energy, Calpine, I'll still call it Granite Ridge Energy, but it's Calpine now, was proposing that we should drop the value in 2017 down to $328 million, and in 2018 to $238 million. And remember, this is from $470 million. I will tell you that, frankly, people worked hard on this at the town. The finance director, Kevin, they were terrific about putting together whatever we needed. We hired an expert. We were hamstrung by the fact that, again, setting aside for a minute that the plant itself actually devalued during that time, the equalization ratios reduced the value from $470 million to $420 million, or $421 million, and then $400 million for the 2 years. And so we did our best to achieve a settlement that the town, that would not cause a catastrophe for the town, frankly. We knew we weren't going to accept their values. Frankly, we knew we weren't going to accept DRA's values. And I can tell you that a protective order prohibits me from telling you what DRA's values were, but ultimately the settlement we achieved each year is tens of millions of dollars higher in value than DRA's settlement with GRE. So where we ended up was a value for 2017 of $407.5 million. For 2018 to $370 million. And Calpine was willing to, I'll give Calpine their due, quite frankly. I've represented energy companies for the last 20 years. I have not represented Calpine before. Some of the energy companies are not as, Calpine drove a hard bargain, but they always were mindful that they didn't want to drive a bargain that they believed was going to cost a catastrophe for the town. And there are two ways that takes form. So these numbers are higher, frankly, than anything they asked for. They are significantly higher than DRA's values. And we went for a 5-year agreement. Here's the reason for that. These cases could have been tried at the Board of Tax and Land Appeal, which is where they'd filed their abatements. Had that happened, and had we lost, that instead of a longer-term agreement that includes, instead of cutting large checks to Calpine, or a large check for, some millions of dollars, they were agreeable that they would break this down into tax credits. In fact, the tax credits will go out until 2025, as opposed to having to pay them an enormous amount of money in year one. And the other thing that's important about this is that the state of New Hampshire still has, by statute, if you prevail on a tax abatement, you're entitled to 6% interest per year. Now, I don't know anybody today who wouldn't like to get 6% interest on anything that they were saving, but that's still the tax statute in New Hampshire. They waived all interest on any abatement. And so this is the agreement that we negotiated. It is an agreement. The reason for the 5-year agreement, frankly, is one, to spread out the tax credits and not write them a check. And secondly, because the town did a revaluation in 2019, the plant probably wouldn't have been revalued again until 2003 anyway. And the other component about this is that particularly Kevin and I, but again, Justin helped crunch the numbers significantly, but we spent a fair amount of time talking to the town's own expert appraiser, and he conceded that given the change in the capacity market, the volatility of the energy prices, and the equalization ratios that we were starting with, that the likelihood, if we tried the case, was not going to come out anywhere near the numbers that we could negotiate. And so I know that's a lot of explanation. I don't know how to boil it down any shorter than that. I'm happy to take any questions anybody has.
Let me try to set some clarification questions up. All right, so the way that this plant's evaluated is based on what the law is here in New Hampshire and what we follow from the standpoint of evaluation of the plant. So as an example that might be easier for people to understand is we have the Shaw's Plaza here in town.
Yeah.
And that the Shaw's Plaza at one time went almost 100% vacant. At that point, there was only Shaw's left, and that particular shopping center would be worth less money without tenants because it wouldn't have any revenue. So if it was at 10 million and it had no tenants, it might only be worth $5 million.
By the same token, if you're reaching $9.55 per kilowatt hour for a capacity payment, your facility is worth an awful lot more money than if you're only getting $2 for your capacity payment. Think of it as you've lost 80% of your tenants if you're the shopping plaza.
Okay.
I will add, by the way, the most recent capacity market, which was another reason to go out to 2023, things may have started to turn around. There was a rebound in February of this year. So we're talking about for the capacity price in 2024, jumped up 49 cents. It's $2.49. And so by the time this agreement ends, there'll be a forward capacity level made for the next 4 or 5 years, and hopefully, the facility will be worth a lot more money, and the town will be able to assess it as such. But it's just as simple as they bought at the highest price there ever was in the capacity market, and 5 years later, it was at the lowest it's ever been. It's really that, in some ways, that's the concept here that you can't get away from.
So we basically have been in this discussion for 3 years? Is that about right?
Yes.
So during that 3-year period, I know that some investigation was done with regards to what the power plant has paid the town over the last 18 years, and I think it was somewhere in the area of about $120 million. So they've paid about $120 million in taxes over that period of time. For those of you that have children in the schools, $80 million of that went to the schools for the education of our children. At the end of this, it appears from the numbers that you've posted here that they'll still pay us approximately $5 million a year. I know there's credits and everything else, but straight valuation, approximately $5 million.
I can tell you that yes, based on the numbers in this agreement, and the anticipated tax, if the tax rate stays roughly where it is right now, they would be $10 million one way or the other $10,000 one way or the other of $5 million.
Okay, questions? Yes.
If I could just also add to this, in terms of dollar figures, so the amount that the town owes in tax credits between this year and 2025 amounts to $6,635,600. And as Mike talked about, they're willing to spread that out over a 5-year period. And so for tax years 21, 22, 23, the town will credit them $1,749,453. And for tax years 24 and 25, we'll be crediting them $693,620.
Yeah, and just so the public is aware, is that we have through our council and everything else, had a discussion with the school department and with the school board and with everyone else to explain to them that, until we can build up new revenue that we're working on as fast as possible, that, you need to look hard at your budgets. You need to hold the line, while we work through this. That goes for the school department, the library, all the town departments. We need to be smart. And the good news is while we can't discuss them because we're under non-disclosure, we are working on things that are in the pipeline to bring more commercial development to Pettingill Road and the other areas. So with that is Granite Ridge. Any questions? Our next meeting, we're going to talk about, Attorney Ramsdell will not be with us on our next meeting, but we will be talking about the revaluation of the town. The tax assessor will be here, and we'll talk about how we're going to revalue the town going forward based on what everyone is seeing in the residential prices that are at an all-time high for, the town of Londonderry that we have to address. Okay, I think I have interviews for the Heritage Commission I have 114 Pillsbury Road lease discussion.
Hello again, Mr. Chairman. Mike Malaguti, Assistant Town Solicitor. I was here, I think last time, with a proposed lease agreement with Mr. Christensen, who is the new owner of Moose Hill Orchards. And you reviewed and approved that draft. You have in front of you a new draft that is essentially the same, subject to a couple of points that I'll make in a minute. The reason for the changes is this. Since our initial meetings with Mr. Christensen, it's become apparent that there's potentially a difference in interpretation as far as public access is concerned. to his orchards under the terms of the various conservation easements that the town holds. And so we thought it best, and I'm recommending to you tonight that we go with a lease agreement that does not have a one-year term with automatic extensions, with 10 automatic extensions, that we take it step by step with Mr. Christensen and run a lease through the end of this season. We think this makes sense for a couple of different reasons. One is it'll give us the opportunity to see how that relationship works out. Two is we get in. I'm not an apple grower, but I'm told that in periods of high moisture, it's important that there not be an interruption in the spraying cycle that takes place because the trees don't dry out. And so Mr. Christensen is there. He's set up and he's able to continue that spraying cycle uninterrupted. I will note for the council's information, and I think some of you are already aware of this, that we did have discussions with other potential lessees, but for the reasons I just mentioned, we think this makes the most sense at this time. The CONSCOM approved this draft that you have in front of you, essentially the same draft, last Tuesday night, and so I'm asking for your approval of the draft that's in front of you.
Well, it's a 4-month lease.
I don't have a copy of that.
We don't seem to have a
I
copy.
don't have a copy of it.
It is not in the public materials. It was emailed over the weekend.
We did get it.
And I apologize for things have moved very quickly here with the negotiations, and so it wasn't possible to give more notice than that.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mike, would you anticipate an additional negotiation around the first of the year? Is that the next step?
Yeah, so it's my recommendation that we begin having those discussions soon. This lease runs through, the end of the season is November, the November timeframe. So really, we should begin those discussions in the immediate term, and that's what I would say about that.
Okay, thank you.
I think they're November 1st.
Yeah, I think we should. I mean, I think we should definitely start to,
You need a motion or you just need consensus?
yeah, what do you,
I'd like a vote if it's possible.
Make a motion to approve the lease as was emailed to us over the weekend for the 4-month period to be relooked at November 1st. And that's the motion.
So moved.
second?
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative.
Thank you.
Please keep us in the loop as you go forward.
Will do.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes of our council meetings for June 28th and 21st, 2021.
I need a second.
Second?
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 So I'm going to jump to interviews. Who do I have here tonight, Kirby, to be interviewed? I apologize. I should have come to you sooner.
Laura.
I have Laura. And Laura is interviewing for?
Heritage.
Okay. Hi, Laura. What, you- That would be great. Thank you very much. You got the caught in the mix of me moving around in the agenda, and I lost you along the way. Although you're in the place where I said you would be, I wanted to move you forward. So hi, Laura. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, Laura Shankman. I live at 9 Verde Lane.
So Laura, usually what we do is when we ask folks to come in and talk to us about joining one of the boards is we give them the option to make an opening statement, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in the Heritage Commission, and then we might ask you a couple of questions if you're comfortable with that.
Okay. So the reason I'm interested in the Heritage Commission is my original background. My bachelor's degree is in geography with a specialization in planning and zoning. I worked for the town of Glastonbury, Connecticut, and I worked for the town of Barnstable, Massachusetts, which includes Hyannis, Osterville, Cotuit, which has a very rich history. I then became an educator, and I've always had a very strong interest in history and historical preservation. I worked for colonial museums as an educator. I have also worked with historical societies in Connecticut. Moved up here in 1990. Moved to New Hampshire in 1997. Moved to Londonderry in 1998. Had children. And as you know, you have kids, and one thing after another. My children are now entering college, and I would like to return to where I started and go back to looking at town planning, historical preservation. Also, I'm noticing, and I saw very well tonight, Londonderry is growing. I am a resident here. I would like to see the town continue to grow, and at the same time preserve the history and the culture that kind of made me want to move here in the first place. So that's, in a nutshell, that's really my background and my interest.
Thank you, Laura. Questions for Laura?
No, but thank you for stepping up. It's good to have somebody who has some historical passion on the Heritage Committee.
You're most welcome.
Yeah, great qualifications, thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess we don't have any questions.
Okay.
Well, nice meeting you.
Yes.
Thank you for coming up. We'll make a decision, fairly quickly, and Kirby will get back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
I-
sitting through our meeting this evening.
With my background in planning and zoning, I completely understand. It's a good thing I was a young person back then, because some of those meetings on Cape Cod went well towards 11 o'clock at night.
When I joined the planning board in late 1999, early 2000, the meetings on average went till midnight every Wednesday.
That,
So we've come a long way. Thank
well,
you.
thank you very much, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. So Kirby, who else do I have here this evening?
So then Ron is here for solid waste, and she's the only applicant I got for Heritage, so if you guys want to make a decision tonight.
I have to accept the other one first.
Okay, that's fine.
So go ahead, Ron. I don't, so Ron, you want to do, we all know you. You want to do solid waste?
I would.
You're a good guy.
I would like to, because I'm currently on a committee that's going to be ending, and we're going to be presenting to you guys, so I'll have plenty of time to help out.
Okay, any questions for Ron?
No.
Do we have an opening on solid waste?
We do, yep.
Okay, I'll accept a motion to put Ron on solid waste.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you.
Thanks for sitting through the meeting, Ron. Okay, I'll accept a motion to accept the resignation of Mike Noon from the, was he Heritage?
Conservation.
Do I have an opening on Heritage? Kirby?
We just did Heritage.
I have an opening on Heritage?
You have a few.
I have at least one?
Full-time.
Okay, I'll accept the motion for a full-time member for Laura.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Alternate, sorry.
I'll correct,
Could you redo theirs, because in the minutes we have to be very specific for solid waste, it has to say full-time for your position, I guess.
so I'll accept the motion for a full-time, 3-year position for Ron Dunn for Solid Waste Committee.
What she said. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. Just see the clerk and be sworn in, Ron. Now for Laura, we have an alternate position?
We've got 2 3-year alternate positions and 1 1-year alternate.
So we'll start with the 3-year and ask Laura to serve as an alternate on the Heritage Commission.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. Now I'll accept the resignation for Mike Noon from the Conservation Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Mike, thank you for your service. Greatly appreciate the time and all the effort. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative and accept Mike's resignation. Liaison reports. Anything from the council from a liaison report standpoint? Nothing new. Okay. Town manager report.
Just a couple of quick things. One is I attended the Traffic Safety Committee meeting for a little bit this morning. Deb was there as well. The Traffic Safety Committee voted to recommend to the town council that a binding warrant article be placed on the town meeting ballot for the next town meeting, recommending a townwide speed limit of 30 miles an hour. The committee is aware that it's ultimately the council's decision on whether or not they want to put something like that on the ballot, but it was a recommendation from the Traffic Safety Committee.
So please ask the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission for any data they have for other towns who have done this so that we can get educated.
Sure. Yep. And the other thing is, Old Home Day planning continues. Our next meeting is this Wednesday, which will actually be we're taking a field trip to the town common because most of the folks on the committee hadn't served on the committee previously, so we're going there just to get an idea of what the setup's going to look like this year in the various locations where we're planning things for Old Home Day.
I wonder what the town common would look like without the new drainage.
You probably would not see the grass, I'm guessing.
No, are you all set?
Yes.
With that comment, drought update.
Well, I'm sure it will surprise no one that after what seems like 40 days and 40 nights of rain, we are no longer in drought status. So the folks in northern New Hampshire aren't facing the same fate as us right now, but we are out of drought status. So.
And did you have anything else, Lisa?
Yes, just very quickly with regard to Leadership Londonderry, I wanted to let the council know or preview for you that right now we have only received 11 applicants for this year's class, despite extending the deadline a couple times, publicizing it, etc. I've been in communication with both Pollyanna and Mark, and what we'd like to propose is that we put out one more call for applicants to see if we get any more. We invariably lose one or two people by the time we get to September. Work commitments change, etc. And if we had any less than 10, I think it would just make the program less valuable, both for the people in the class, to have fellow classmates, as well as the drain on staff time for such a small class. So I would like to do that with the council's permission. And if we don't get any more applicants where we think we're going to be 10 or more at least, then perhaps we take a year hiatus and come back again next year.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I would encourage anybody that has recently applied for any of our openings on any of our boards or recently been appointed. Laura, I would suggest that they might want to sign up for Leadership Londonderry.
Not that that's a hint or anything.
The application. Sure, I should also say that's a good point. The application is still on the town website. We'll make sure that it's front and center again tomorrow morning.
Okay. Is there anything further this evening? With that, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I have a second. Ladies and gentlemen, our next meeting will be August 16th, which will be right before Old Home Day. Old Home Day is going to be adventurous this year, I hear. Thank you very much. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you very much and good night.